He was charismatic, attractive, and deadly. In 1974, Paul John Knowles swept across the United States like a shadow, leaving a trail of death and mystery. To the world, he was the Casanova Killer, a man whose charm masked a chilling thirst for murder. Paul John Knowles was born on April 25, 1946, in Orlando, Florida. From a young age, his life was marked by instability. Raised in a broken home and later shuffled through the juvenile justice system, Knowles never experienced the comfort of a stable upbringing. By age 19, he was in prison for burglary, a sentence that would be the beginning of a long and violent criminal path. Even behind bars, Knowles exuded an eerie allure. He was intelligent and manipulative, often persuading others to see him as misunderstood rather than dangerous. In 1974, after a short-lived release, he was arrested again, this time for a barroom brawl. But he escaped from jail with the help of a female acquaintance, and that escape would mark the start of one of the most notorious killing sprees in American history. Between July and November of that year, Knowles roamed freely across the southeastern United States, posing as a drifter. He was tall, handsome, and smooth-talking, traits that earned him the nickname the Casanova Killer. But beneath his charming facade lay a violent predator with no remorse. Knowles claimed to have killed 35 people, though only 18 of those murders were ever confirmed. His victims included women, men, and even children. He killed for convenience, for control, and sometimes seemingly just because he could. Some were strangers he met on the road. Others were individuals who offered him kindness, only to be betrayed by the very person they tried to help. Among his first known victims were Carswell Carr, a retired college professor, and his 15-year-old daughter, Amanda. They had the misfortune of picking up Knowles when he was hitchhiking through Georgia. He strangled them both and left their bodies in the woods, a brutal act that would be echoed many times throughout his journey. In another chilling case, he murdered a woman named Ann Dawson, a kind soul who invited him into her home out of compassion. She was never seen again, and her body was never recovered. One of the few who survived an encounter with Knowles was Barbara Maybe Abel, a Florida woman whom he abducted and held hostage in a motel. Abel, using extraordinary composure, managed to gain his trust. She listened to him, sympathized, and carefully convinced him to leave her behind. Her survival was a rare exception in Knowles's path of destruction. What made Knowles especially dangerous was his unpredictability. Unlike many serial killers who have patterns, Knowles operated on impulse. He used a variety of methods: strangulation, stabbing, shooting. He left no clear motive and often no witnesses. His killings spanned more than 10 states, and local authorities struggled to connect the dots until it was far too late. Psychologists later speculated that Knowles suffered from antisocial personality disorder, coupled with narcissistic and possibly psychopathic traits. He showed no remorse for his actions and even recorded confessions on audio tapes, describing his crimes in chilling detail. These tapes were later destroyed by law enforcement to prevent them from inspiring copycats or glorifying his evil deeds. Eventually, Knowles was caught, not by local police or the FBI, but by an unexpected hero, David Roberts, an off-duty sheriff's deputy from Georgia. Roberts recognized Knowles during a routine stop and managed to subdue him after a struggle. The Casanova Killer's reign had finally come to an end. But even in captivity, Knowles wasn't finished causing chaos. On December 18, 1974, while being transported by police, he attempted to steal an officer's gun. In the struggle that followed, he was shot and killed. He died at the age of 28, never facing trial, never showing regret. In the years that followed, Knowles' story became the subject of true crime documentaries, books, and podcasts. People remain fascinated not just by the scope of his violence, but by the contradiction of his personality. A man who could gain your trust in minutes, only to take your life moments later. Paul John Knowles serves as a haunting reminder that danger often wears a friendly face. He exploited kindness, used charm as a weapon, and left behind a trail of victims whose stories deserve to be remembered. His case also triggered discussions about law enforcement coordination across states, especially in tracking mobile killers. It exposed vulnerabilities in how different jurisdictions share information, gaps that, sadly, allowed Knowles to kill again and again. The legacy of the Casanova Killer is not in his charm or his crimes, but in the lessons learned. In a world fascinated by serial killers, it's crucial not to glorify the individual, but to honor the lives lost, and to remember that true evil often looks ordinary. This was the story of Paul John Knowles, a man who smiled as he murdered, and a warning to never judge a book by its cover.